I woke up to the soft buzz of my phone vibrating under my pillow. Groggy, I reached for it, expecting a couple of notifications. Maybe a meme from Priya, a reminder for work. Instead, I froze. 200 missed calls. All from Ian. Blinked. Rubbed my eyes. It had to be a glitch, right? Nope. The call log was filled with his name. One after the other, minute after minute, all through the night. Few voicemails too. I didn't even have to press play to hear the panic in them. Just reading the transcriptions. Where are you? Pick up, please. You can't ignore me like this. If you don't answer, I swear. I sat up slowly. My chest tightened, stomach turning. Something wasn't right. I remembered the night before. The argument. The way his voice had sharpened when I said I needed space. Just a few days, I told him. To think. To breathe. You want space or someone else, he snapped. I didn't respond. Just turned my phone off. Not to punish him, just to escape the noise. But this. 200 calls. This wasn't love. This wasn't even desperation. Felt like a warning. My fingers trembled as I scrolled through the rest of my phone. Nothing from my parents or friends. No emergencies. Just Ian over and over. I stared at the screen, suddenly remembering a moment from our second month together. We were in his car, laughing about something stupid, and he looked at me and said, "I'd go insane if I lost you." At the time I thought it was romantic. Now, with his name filling my screen like a digital scream, it felt like a red flag I'd ignored. Love shouldn't feel like being hunted. I got out of bed and moved robotically to the window, pulling the curtains open. Morning sunlight poured in, too bright for the knot growing in my chest. My phone buzzed again. Ian is calling. I didn't answer. I just watched the screen go black again, swallowed by silence. What was he trying to prove with 200 calls? That he cared. That he couldn't live without me. Because what I felt wasn't love echoing through those missed calls. It was control. It was fear. And it was just the beginning. It didn't start this way. In the beginning, Ian was a dream. He remembered the smallest details about me. My favorite book, the way I liked my tea, the fact that I hated the sound of ticking clocks. He sent flowers to my office just because, wrote me notes folded into stars, and said I made his world make sense. We fell hard. Fast. And I didn't stop to ask if fast was always good. The first time he asked to share locations, he made it sound sweet. "Just so I know you're safe," he said. I remember smiling, thinking how thoughtful that was. How lucky I was to have someone who cared so deeply. But caring turned into questioning. Why were you at that cafe for 2 hours? Who's Priya texting you at midnight? Why didn't you answer me right away? First, I explained everything. I wanted to be honest. I believed that honesty would build trust. But with Ian, trust was never a bridge. We were always stuck in a maze. One wrong turn and he'd shut down, grow cold, or worse, accuse. My friends started noticing. "You okay?" Priya asked once, after he showed up at our girls' night uninvited. "He just misses me," I said, laughing it off. But even I didn't believe myself. I made excuses. For him. For the tension in my chest. For how I stopped wearing makeup some days just to avoid questions. For how I stopped seeing certain friends, because it made him uncomfortable. And then came those 200 missed calls. Each one felt like a breadcrumb leading back to every time I'd ignored that voice inside me. The one whispering, "This isn't normal. This isn't love." Now, with my phone still buzzing every few minutes, the reality couldn't be clearer. This wasn't concern. This was control in disguise. And I didn't know how much more of myself I could lose before I vanished completely. I finally called him back. Had to. 200 missed calls couldn't just be silence anymore. He answered on the first ring, like he had been sitting with the phone in his palm, waiting. "Hello," I said cautiously. There was a pause, too long, and then his voice, smooth, steady, but off. "Nice of you to finally care," he said. "I needed space, Ian. You were overwhelming me." His laugh was short. "Me. You'll understand soon," he murmured. "I just hope you remember. You broke us." Before I could respond, the call ended. It was chilling. Not loud, not angry, just cold. Measured. The way a storm watches before it strikes. For a few days there was nothing. Radio silence. I told myself maybe he'd finally accepted it, maybe it was over. But peace is tricky when it comes too easily. The first sign was a screenshot, an old text I sent to a friend about my fears in the relationship. It was posted anonymously on a gossip account that followed my college circle. Then came the photos. Nothing scandalous but personal. Ones I'd never shared with anyone. Selfies in my room, beach pics from last summer, even one where I was crying after a fight we'd had. I remembered the day. I had sent it to him. Now it was out there. With a caption that read, "Maybe this is the real her." My stomach dropped. The phone trembled in my hand. That night I got the first anonymous message. "He gave you everything and you spit on it. Karma's just getting started." They kept coming. From fake accounts. From blocked numbers. Changed passwords. Deleted apps. Switched my number. But with every new message, every photo leak, it became clear. This wasn't random. This was revenge. Calculated. Personal. Familiar. It was Ian. And the worst part. He hadn't screamed. He hadn't begged. He had smiled into the quiet and weaponized it. People whispered. Friends stopped replying. My inbox filled with questions I didn't know how to answer. He was breaking me in a different way now. Not with words but with shadows. I had thought space would be my freedom. But to him it was a battlefield. And I had just stepped into the war he'd been preparing all along. Looking back now, the signs were always there. Not in neon lights, but in quiet glances, sharp silences, and the way I always felt the need to explain myself. Like the time I laughed at a joke another guy made at a group dinner. Just laughter, nothing more. Ian didn't say a word then. But later that night, he threw his phone across the room. It hit the wall and shattered. "Jump." He didn't. "Why would you embarrass me like that?" he said. I spent the rest of the night apologizing. Or the way he hated when I spent too much time texting my friends. "Why do you need anyone else when you have me?" he'd say with a half smile. It sounded romantic. At first. Like he just loved me so much. But that smile always came with conditions. With slow isolation I didn't notice until I looked around and felt alone. He'd show up unexpectedly when I was out, saying he was missing me. Called it sweet. My friends called it suffocating. Once I told him I needed a weekend just for myself, to think, breathe, right? He went completely silent for 2 days. When he finally spoke, it was only this. "I guess we're not as close as I thought." And like a fool I cried. Begged. I reassured him. I thought love was supposed to bend. I didn't realize I was the only one breaking. Back then I told myself he just cared deeply. That he just didn't know how to show it. But now I see what I couldn't before. Jealousy wasn't love. Possessiveness wasn't protection. Silence wasn't peace. He didn't want a partner. He wanted control dressed as concern. I didn't walk into a trap. I walked in with my eyes half closed, calling it love, when it was always something else. I didn't even see it coming. The email simply said, "We regret to inform you." A job I was shortlisted for, one I had dreamed about, slipped through my fingers. No explanation. No second chance. Later, a friend who worked at the same company told me quietly. "Someone called HR. Said you were emotionally unstable. Unpredictable." They didn't give a name. But I didn't need one. He knew. It was Ian. That night, I sat on my bedroom floor, my phone blinking with missed calls, texts, and voice notes from him. "I told you that job wasn't right for you. Why are you always running away from what matters? Don't make me the villain when I'm just trying to help." Help. He'd helped destroy the one thing I had left that wasn't his. I didn't cry. I just stared at my wall for what felt like hours. When my mom knocked, I almost didn't answer. But I did. I told her everything. Not just the missed calls, not just the fight, but all of it. The shattered phone. The tracking. The way he twisted words until I couldn't remember what I had said. She didn't interrupt. She just sat beside me, holding my hand like she used to when I was little and afraid of thunderstorms. Later, my dad joined us. He didn't say much either, just listened. His eyes were wet. For the first time, I felt like someone believed me without making me feel stupid for letting it happen. The next day, I told my friends. One by one, they reached out, some with hugs, others with quiet messages. I always felt something was off. I should have said something. Their support didn't fix what was broken, but it gave me the strength to stop bleeding in silence. I stopped replying to Ian's texts. I blocked his number. I changed my passwords. And I started keeping track of every message, every veiled threat, every fake apology wrapped in guilt. I kept a digital folder labeled Truth. I wasn't scared anymore. I was angry. And anger was finally louder than fear. This wasn't just about missed calls anymore. This was about reclaiming my voice. My future. There's a moment when fear becomes fuel. Mine came in the middle of the night, staring at a folder full of evidence, texts that said, "You'll regret this," voice notes where he said I was nothing without him, and 200 missed calls like a siren only I could hear. I was done being quiet. The next morning I filed a formal complaint. First to my workplace's HR, then to a legal helpline for women. I told them everything. Every screenshot, every message, every word I had tried to excuse away before. I included statements from 2 friends who had witnessed his temper. I sent in the call logs. I made it real. And I felt light. Not healed. Not yet. Seen. Finally seen. I hadn't heard from Ian in 3 days. Then one afternoon he showed up. I opened the door, and there he was. Flowers in hand, a familiar smirk tugging at his lips like none of it had happened. "I miss you," he said softly, like we were just 2 people in a romantic movie who needed to talk it out. But this wasn't a movie. And I wasn't the girl he left crying on the floor anymore. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I looked him in the eye and said, "You need to leave. It's over." He started his speech. "You're blowing this out of proportion. You know how much I love you," the same cycle I had memorized. This time I didn't play my part. "I've filed a complaint," I said clearly. "And I'm not hiding what you did anymore." He froze. "You don't get to hurt people and then pretend it was love." He stormed off, slamming the gate. But I didn't flinch. That night I opened my laptop. For hours I typed. Not just about Ian, but about the signs I missed, the way I lost myself, and how easy it is for pain to hide behind charm. I didn't name him. I didn't need to. I recorded a video. Face bare. Voice steady. I said everything I had kept inside for years. Not out of revenge. Out of release. "I'm not sharing this for sympathy," I said. "I'm sharing it because someone else might be sitting in silence, thinking this is normal. Thinking they're overreacting. Thinking they're alone. You're not." I hit upload. First silence. Then slowly the comments came. "I needed this today. You're so brave. Thank you. I left because of your video." Within days it spread. Friends shared it. So did strangers. I didn't expect it to go viral. But it did. Because too many of us had stories with different faces and the same ending. And suddenly, for the first time in my life, I wasn't silent. And I wasn't alone. I spoke. And people listened. Not because I screamed. But because I finally stopped whispering. It started quietly. Just whispers at first. A colleague of his posted something cryptic online. Then a friend unfollowed him. Then another. By the end of the week, Ian's name wasn't being spoken with admiration anymore, but with caution. The video I'd made wasn't about him by name, but the truth has a strange way of finding its way home. Word got around. One morning, a friend messaged me. "Did you hear? Ian got fired." HR investigated him after another woman came forward. I stared at my phone, unmoving. I wasn't happy. I wasn't sad. I just felt still. He had always made himself look so polished, so composed. The perfect boyfriend, the loyal friend. But the truth didn't need a spotlight, it simply existed. And now it was burning through every lie he built. He tried to call again. This time I didn't block it. I let it ring once and then declined. That was enough. He showed up at my door again a week later. No flowers this time. Just swollen eyes and trembling hands. "I lost everything," he choked. "Please, I didn't mean to. I was just scared of losing you." I stood there, listening to him unravel, like the man he pretended to be was being stripped away in front of me. He reached out for my hand. "I need you," he whispered. I didn't flinch. I didn't speak. I pulled a folded paper from my jacket pocket and handed it to him. Restraining order. His eyes widened as he scanned it, realization slowly creeping in. "I just want to talk," he begged. "Just once." I shook my head. Not out of anger. Out of finality. "I did talk," I said. "You never listened." And then I turned around and walked away. No dramatic exit. No slamming doors. Just silence. That was my closure. Not yelling. Not revenge. Not proving anything. Just leaving and not looking back. Because his downfall was never my goal. But my healing. That was always mine to claim. The first time I sat across from a therapist, I cried without saying a single word. Not because I was still broken, but because, for the first time, I felt safe enough to begin piecing myself back together. Therapy wasn't some dramatic transformation. It was quiet. It was hard. It was weeks of unpacking things I thought I had buried. Like why I apologized for things I didn't do. Why I mistook jealousy for love. Why I stayed long after I should have run. I began journaling too. Not the curated, aesthetically pleasing kind. Just raw, messy scribbles in a notebook I didn't let anyone read. Some pages were rage. Some were grief. But most became a blueprint for the version of me I had lost. And in between those healing moments, I reconnected. With friends I had pushed away during the chaos. The ones who had waited. Who had watched and worried from a distance. We went for late-night drives again. We laughed without looking over our shoulders. It wasn't revenge that gave me that peace. Not the post. Not the rumors. Not even the restraining order. It was waking up and not flinching when I heard my phone ring. It was being able to say no without guilt. It was noticing red flags early, and walking away before they wrapped around me like a noose. I no longer romanticized fixing someone or being ride or die. Now I knew what real strength looked like. It wasn't silence. It wasn't staying. It was choosing myself. And maybe that's what true revenge is. Not watching someone fall, but rising so far above them, they're forced to look up just to find where you went. And even then, realizing you're long gone, it's been months now. My phone is calm. No missed calls at 2 a.m. No frenzied voicemails. No strings of texts begging, accusing, manipulating. Silence used to scare me. Now it feels like freedom. I don't check my phone with dread anymore. I wake up without anxiety pressing against my chest. I sleep through the night. My world is quiet, and I've never felt more in control. I'm seeing someone new. Slowly, cautiously. There's no rush. He asks, not assumes. Listens, not interrogates. And best of all, he respects my no without needing a reason. But even if this doesn't last, I'll be okay. Because I've rebuilt a life that doesn't depend on someone else's approval, or their obsession. Sometimes I still wonder what he thinks when he sees me now. Unafraid. Unapologetic. Unreachable. But I don't wonder for long. He called 200 times to break me. But I only needed one moment. Choose myself.